What's going on, Broncos fans? Sam Brown here with the Broncos Breakdown. Gonna get into some training camp battles to look out for on today's show. But before we get into it, want to get to the pinned comment here on today's video. The very first comment you see right underneath it. What position battle are you looking out for? Get into the comments and let me know. I'm going to scroll down, see what you guys have to say. I have a feeling I'm going to get a bunch of different answers. And I've got 7 position battles going into Broncos training camp for you to look out for on today's show. Sam Brown here with the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. And on today's show, we're bringing you training camp battles that you should be looking out for. Training camp here, picking up here at the end of the month. So getting a little bit of the lowdown of what to expect here as we move into the preseason and into the regular season as well. We're going to start with the battles on offense, and this is the one everyone wants to know, right? The starting quarterback job. Who's going to win it, Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater? Those are the two clear-cut candidates right now to be QB1 under center week 1 against the New York Giants. And you don't love your options, right? Drew Lock, we've seen what he's done in a year plus, dealt with the injuries, but wasn't great either. Teddy Bridgewater was right with the Carolina Panthers last season, didn't really shine as much as I think many of them would have expected, and Brett Rippon's going to be the third stringer. I mean, the options, like I said, aren't overwhelming, and it's not looking up when you think about the players that the Broncos have been linked to, guys like Deshaun Watson, even Matthew Stafford at one point we talked about here on the show, and now Aaron Rodgers is the talk of the town pretty much, both in Wisconsin and in Denver. You would hope one of those upgrades might be coming soon because based on last year's numbers, it's hard to set a real high ceiling at this position right now for Denver. Drew Lock was better than Teddy Bridgewater last year, maybe. Like, his quarterback rating certainly lower, more of a better offensive output, but more mistakes, more incompletions. Drew Lock has the higher ceiling among the quarterbacks. However, Teddy Bridgewater really does fit that game manager fit that might work out better for Pat Shurmur and Vic Fangio's offense in 2021. Give the defense some rest because they're going to be the beating heart, essentially, of this Broncos team. They're going to be what picks up wins for Denver in 2021. So I'll ask you this opening question here in today's video. Who starts week 1? We're going to go with the numbers here. Switch it up a little bit. Drew Lock, I want you to type 3 for his jersey number 3, obviously. Teddy Bridgewater, go ahead and type 5. At this point, I'm still fairly confident in saying Lock's going to get first crack at it unless he has a really bad training camp and a bad preseason overall. But who knows? Maybe Vic Fangio surprises us, rolls out Teddy Bridgewater week 1. But get your votes in right now in the comment section. 3 for Lock or 5 for Bridgewater. Moving on to the running back spot, I'm really intrigued to see this sort of Melvin Gordon versus Javonte Williams battle. And it's all likelihood Melvin Gordon's going to start out the season as RB1 after last season. Had a solid year with Denver. 4.6 yards per carry. Not, like that to be maybe a little bit higher, but was certainly productive. Had some flashes, obviously, in the receiving game. 9 touchdowns on the ground for the season. And he was splitting the backfield a little bit with Phillip Lindsay, which he'll have to do this season in all likelihood to an extent with Javonte Williams, who obviously the Broncos traded up in front of the Miami Dolphins in the second round to go out and get out of North Carolina. This is a guy who's coming off a really explosive season with the Tar Heels. Over 1,100 rushing yards. That's about 8 yards per carry. 300 receiving yards. 22 total touchdowns. That's 2 touchdowns a game for those of you that are doing the math there. 22 divided by 11. Kind of hard, I know. But as Melvin Gordon enters the season as RB1, Javonte Williams right now RB2, you're going to see Javonte Williams, I think, slowly start to eat into Melvin Gordon's reps as the season goes on, as he gets more familiar. The big question for me is how quickly does that come? We've heard some good news about Javonte Williams, some good things out of the OTAs, out of rookie minicamp, stuff like that. So interesting to see how Javonte Williams starts out the season, what his reps look like, what his snap counts look like, and whether that increases over the course of the season. I think we've got 2 wide receivers pretty much set, the top 2 in Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. But can KJ Hamler maybe push Tim Patrick for that wide receiver 3 role? I'll be intrigued to find out here in training camp. Tim Patrick right now is the de facto wide receiver 3, just signed that second-round tender recently as a restricted free agent to return to Denver, and he certainly earned it with that big jump he took in his 3rd season. I mean, over 300% of his yardage total from the year before. Look at his catch total. I mean, 79 targets, 51 receptions. That's pretty damn good, especially for a wide receiver 3, kind of a high point ball guy, where a lot of those opportunities are contested ball situations. That's really where Tim Patrick thrives. So can KJ Hamler come in, maybe take some of those reps, some of those receptions? We'll have to see. He had some good weeks. There's no doubt about it. I think back to a couple of those games. I'm forgetting the team that they played against right now, unfortunately, but the game with 80-plus yards, 2 touchdowns for Hamler, really shined out as a rookie moment for him. But there were also weeks where he was practically non-existent, dealt with injuries, and I think overall he just needs to take that next step in his second season. This is another guy the Broncos spent some decent draft capital on in the 2020 draft, and so far the return's not fantastic. Now, he can certainly change that. There's plenty of time to do so. But Tim Patrick's been proven, at least last season, proved that he can fill that wide receiver 3 role. It's up to KJ Hamler to really step in and prove to the coaching staff that he deserves more touches, more looks, and overall more catches. So who's going to get more yards now going into the 2021 season? Will it be Patrick or will it be Hamler? You can type your P for Patrick in the comment section or go down and type your H for Hamler. At this point in time, I got to go with Tim Patrick. I mean, he's proved himself, like I said, really earned a good chemistry, both with Drew Lock and their backup options, Driscoll and Rippon, as the season went on. So I think Patrick's the guy right now, the leader in the clubhouse, to be that wide receiver 3 behind Sutton and Judy. The last training camp battle I'm looking out for, on offense at least, it's at center. Lloyd Cushenberry, Quinn Meinerz expected to kind of duel it out over training camp. We'll talk a little bit more about Meinerz in general, but Cushenberry's rookie season really got thrown into the fire, and the returns were not fantastic. Showed some flashes, had some solid games, but a 40.5 overall grade isn't fantastic. That's not one you throw on top of the fridge and throw a stamp on it because you're so damn proud. 47.6 in the pass grade, the run grade at 37.9. That's really where you saw his biggest need for improvement into his second season. And then you bring in Quinn Meinerz, a guy the Broncos drafted in the 3rd round of this year's draft. And Dalton Reisner, the fellow guard, had some great things to say about him, saying, quote, Quinn Meinerz being the rookie man, I have so much respect for him and his story and who he is as a person. It's been great to get to know him. I love his work ethic, and I think he's going to continue to grow this year. So it's awesome that people are excited about it. By the way, I'm sorry, could not get a picture of Quinn Meinerz with the belly out to fit in the frame, but you can see that he's a big boy, and he's going to fit in right on this Broncos offensive line. The question is how soon and where. Right now, going to battle it out with Lloyd Cushenberry, like I said, to be that starting center. But they've also talked about getting him at guard. He's learned some of the playbook at guard. And if Cushenberry wins out that job, you could see Meinerz maybe shift into that 6th tackle, swing tackle kind of role, which could be good for him early on to kind of get his feet wet and get a feel for the NFL style. So I'll ask you guys right now, who will be the starting center now in 2021? You can type your C for Cushenberry or your M for Meinerz. I think we're going to get a few different answers on this one, that's for sure. I think a lot of people want to see Cushenberry get another shot, but a lot of them love what they've heard and seen from Quinn Meinerz. His tape in the woods, pushing down trees. It's just absolutely electric, and it inspires all the confidence you need. But nonetheless, C or M in the comments section. And we'll run back through these one more time on offense. The starting quarterback job, that's the one everyone's asking about, right? Is it going to be Locke or Bridgewater? Can Javonte Williams eat into Melvin Gordon's touches as the season goes on? That's one I'm really looking out for. KJ Hamler and Tim Patrick. Can KJ Hamler take that next step in year 2? And finally, of course, on the offensive line, Lloyd Cushenberry and Quinn Meinerz at center. Now, we're going to keep you updated on all these offseason battles, all the offseason coverage of the Denver Broncos you can ask for right here on the Broncos Breakdown. Do me a favor and hit that big red subscribe button. If you want more of these videos, this is how I pay my fake children. This is how I go to sleep at night. This is how I pay my rent. That's for damn sure. So if you like what you're seeing, you want more news, rumors, content in general, segments like this as well, mailbag videos where we'll answer your questions, be sure to subscribe today. It's youtube.com/Broncos TV, or just look right underneath this video and hit that big red button. We're breaking down some Broncos defensive training camp battles here on the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. And I'm going to start at the linebacker spot. Defensive line looks fairly set to me so far. How about Baron Browning and Justin Sternad for that 3rd linebacker role? I'll be really intrigued to see what we get from Baron Browning and as well as what we really get from Justin Sternad in his first true action, we'll say, with the Denver Broncos, since obviously missing the 2020 season, had wrist surgery and missed the entire year. But this is a guy at Wake Forest, that really showed some flashes, both in the run game as well as in coverage. Interested to see how that translates maybe to an NFL level and how that translates to the Broncos defense. But this is a guy that coaches spoke highly of and players spoke highly of this time last year. And then you bring in Baron Browning in the third round, who I thought was a fantastic pick by Denver. The numbers don't jump off the page, and that's something you've probably heard before. Baron Browning was a traits pick. Former blue chip prospect, 5-star, came in with all the hype in the world. Didn't fully live up to that hype, but nonetheless has the athletic traits, like I said. You see it when you watch the tape. Just needs to turn those into more stats, more impact plays, and he's going to have time potentially to grow behind, A.J. Johnson, behind, Josie Jewell as well. So I think this position a little bit is one to watch, Baron Browning and Justin Sternad. I like Baron Browning a lot. I think he might get the early crack at it, but Sternad, I think, will have a chance also to kind of make an impact on that defense. What do you think is the Broncos' best position group overall, offense or defense? I want you to know, or get your votes in the comments section. I think you make a strong argument for the cornerback room, and we'll talk about the corners here in a sec, but I think they're the best. They're one of the top 5, top 7 at worst position groups, or one of the best cornerback groups in the NFL overall. So I think you could get some safeties, maybe outside linebackers, a strong candidate. I think it's cornerbacks, but let me know what you think in the comments. All right, 2 more battles to break down here. This is an intriguing one. Darby versus Surtain. And it's not so much a knock on Darby because I really liked that free agency signing, thought it was good value. This is more about the hype that we've heard so far around Patrick Surtain and his performance with the Denver Broncos. As of now, obviously, Darby slated in as CB2. Callahan CB3, obviously more of a nickel role. But I'm looking as to whether Surtain can make a push to be that CB2 or maybe eat into some of those reps early on. I think Kyle Fuller is the undisputed CB1 entering training camp and probably entering the 2021 season. But it's not as though Ronald Darby was a slouch by any means last season. I mean, a 54% completion percentage is pretty solid for a what you would say a lockdown cornerback, maybe not, but certainly solid CB1 numbers, high-end CB2 in my mind. Want to see a little bit more interceptions perhaps, a lot of yards, but he was also thrown at a lot last year because he had an inconsistent career up to that point, but certainly showed up at times when he really needed to. But man, Patrick Surtain, the hype that this kid is getting, we'll throw the quote up right now from DC Ed Donatel. It's quite telling. He fits in with our veterans. He's a great listener. He contributes. This guy is very calm when he's playing deep. He has good ball skills, and he can work with other players when he's in stressful situations. I mean, that's pretty damn glowing right there from the defensive coordinator himself. How about this quote from Von Miller from earlier back? We've talked about this quote on the show as well. It says this Patrick Surtain II, this PS2 guy, shout out to the guys who own the PS2. He's the real deal. There were a couple times where I look over my shoulder just to see who's out there at receiver, left and right, checking out the formation, and I see this guy standing out there. I'm like, bro, this guy is taller than me. Is he supposed to be inside? He's supposed to be rushing. This guy is supposed to be rushing. He's the real deal, and he's a specimen. Listen, I'm all in on the Surtain hype. I'll hop on to whatever Von Miller says. Justin Simmons had some good words. I'll hop on to that. Ed Donatel, throw him my way, please. I want it all. When the Broncos drafted this guy at number 9 overall, he's supposed to be the most pro-ready cornerback. J.C. Horn to the Panthers, I thought, was a little bit surprising. Yeah, more athletic, maybe a higher upside in that regard. But Surtain's as pro-ready as it gets. His technique is already NFL-ready. His mind, his awareness for the game, his ability to read the play is already NFL-ready. So, in my mind, this is kind of a best-case scenario where if Surtain emerges and plays really well, Kyle Fuller's on a 1-year deal, could choose to walk somewhere else for bigger money next offseason when the salary cap jumps. Maybe you slot Surtain in at CB1, or you bump Ronald Darby up if he plays well to CB1. Surtain slots in at CB2. You've got consistency at the cornerback room there. So which one of the two emerges, we'll have to wait and see. But damn, it's an exciting time to be a Broncos fan considering the cornerback depth that they have right about now. And then we'll round it out here with a pair of rookie safeties, Jamar Johnson and Caden Stearns, who can really stand out amongst the two. Both drafted in this year's draft within a dozen picks of each other. And as of right now, I think they'll be the third and fourth safety on the Broncos roster. I've got Trey Marshall in there. Only 3 safeties on the roster last season. Marshall was the third, but I don't love having him there. I think Jamar Johnson or Caden Stearns will wind up being the third safety by the end of training camp. PJ Locke at this point, just a camp body. I wouldn't expect him to make the 53-man. I think you're rolling with Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, and then you're going to roll in these two rookies and see which one stands out. Both had solid seasons last year for their respective schools. Jamar Johnson with Indiana showed off the ball hawking ability. Caden Stearns, similar to Baron Browning, came in with a lot of hype and never fully lived up to it. Had a really strong freshman season, but injuries, inconsistency kind of got in his way. I think one of these two picks needs to hit. And producer Jack, who's rocking the buttons behind the scenes, had a good bit about it. Said, "That's such gambler term." And yes, I'm a gambler, quite the gambler. If you need any tips, hit me up. But when you draft two guys within a dozen picks of each other, it's clear what the Broncos are doing. They're hoping one of these two guys winds up being better than the other and winds up maybe being that Kareem Jackson successor next offseason once he hits free agency again. I think that I lean Jamar Johnson in terms of this question. More excited about. You can type J for Johnson, S for Stearns. I like Jamar Johnson a lot. Liked watching some of his tape at Indiana. Reminds me a little bit of that ball hawking kind of Tyrann Mathieu safety, just kind of making plays everywhere. But Caden Stearns also came in with some hype, and it'll be interesting to see which one of the two stands out in training camp, and both in their rookie seasons. All right, we'll run back through these just one more time, a little bit quicker here. Starting quarterback, is it going to be Locke or is it going to be Bridgewater? We'll have to see. Can Javonte Williams start to get those reps from Melvin Gordon as the season goes on? I think a strong training camp would do him a lot of favors in that regard heading into the season. Can KJ Hamler take the next step in his second year, push Tim Patrick for some of those receptions? We'll have to wait and see about that. Who will start at center? Will it be the incumbent Lloyd Cushenberry entering his second season? Or will the rookie Quinn Meinerz upset him and become the starting center in 2021? How about on defense? Baron Browning or Justin Sternad? Two linebackers set right now in the middle, A.J. Johnson and Josie Jewell. Which one of these two will be linebacker 3? How about the cornerback position? This is what I'm really looking out for. Can Surtain live up to the hype through training camp, through the preseason, into the 2021 season, maybe fight for some of those outside cornerback roles? And then finally, the two safeties, Jamar Johnson and Caden Stearns. Which one of those two will be able to stand out in training camp? We're going to have to find out, and we're going to find out, and we'll be there right along with you here at the Broncos Breakdown, so be sure to subscribe to the channel.